How many times recently have you heard the phrase learning to live with COVID? It's the mantra now being drummed into us by health experts and politicians. It's ironic considering how much learning has suffered since COVID's unwelcome arrival. Schools have been thrown into chaos and students who've been forced into lockdowns have lost months of valuable face-to-face time with their teachers. But as the saying goes, we do need to learn to live with COVID, and that means getting young Australians back into the classroom as quickly and safely as possible. Like millions of other Melburnians, father of two Jonathan Casey knows all about looking after his kids in the age of COVID.
Toby, yeah? Anything else? All right, kid, are you ready for school?
For his family, the daily school run is now actually back in full swing. But there's a catch. His kids have returned to class because they all live in Denmark. The Nordic nation is seen by many as the gold standard when it comes to reopening schools after lockdown. Denmark was kind of the guinea pig for the world in terms of getting kids back to school as per normal. How's the guinea pig going?
Oh, I think the guinea pigs are great. All credit to the system here. I think they've done a fantastic job.
No masks, no ventilation kits, no rapid testing, just lots of hand washing for the classrooms of Copenhagen. And yes, there have been some COVID cases, but nothing too concerning. In Australia, if there's an outbreak at a school, it's a crisis. There, it feels like you're not hitting the panic button.
No, Denmark's learnt to live with an amount of the virus circulating in the population, and then the people isolate, and then life goes back to normal.
Denmark was the first country in the Western world to declare COVID conquered. Pretty much all restrictions are gone now, thanks to high vaccination rates. And schools are back in session, without the problems seen in other European countries. When they first reopened here, they had smaller groups, spaced out desks and rapid testing. But now, even those precautions are all gone.
I think the general lesson from around the world is, particularly from Europe, countries like Denmark, when your adult vaccination rates are high, bringing kids back to school makes no impact on your epidemic curve.
COVID has made Dr. Nick Coatsworth one of the most respected medical voices in Australia. Yet he still has plenty of critics, in particular because of his push for kids to get back to the classroom as soon as possible. I get the sense that you think the time for stressing it is kind of over. Get on with it.
I think the important thing we need to pivot to in Australia is really dial back the fear factor associated with COVID. If we stay thinking that this is the terrible disease that it was in 2020, then I think we will be held back and our kids will be held back.
Ask any parent in New South Wales and Victoria, and they'll likely tell you the novelty of home learning wore off long ago. For Sydney-based mum Whitney Hughes and her friends Sue and Kelly, confusion now reigns on when and, critically, how school will return. So do you feel like you've got clarity on what kids going back to the classroom will actually look like?
None at all. No idea at all. I think that term 4 is going to be an up in the air, anything goes. They might be at school for spurts and then they may not be. I don't know what will happen if there's a positive case in their school.
There's been so much constant change and uncertainty that I think even though they put in place these milestones and these dates, I don't think any of us believe that they're hard and fast. In fact, I think we know they're not, and we've all got to be prepared for that change.
Whitney's daughter Piper is a student at Presbyterian Ladies College in Sydney. Like so many other schools across Australia, the grounds here have been eerily empty for much of the year.
I do enjoy the actual grounds. They're beautiful and it's lovely to come here when it's quiet. Without the girls here, we really lack the life of the place.
Principal Dr. Paul Burgess has 1,400 students who've missed out on so much because of COVID, and school has missed them as well.
The playground with all of its noise and cacophony of voices and all of the girls moving through it, it's just fantastic. That's what I miss the most.
Is now the right time to get students back in classrooms?
Well, it's the right time because the Premier said it's the right time. But
That doesn't sound like a heap of confidence.
No, it is. I think it is. Look, how long can you homeschool? Rather than say we can't do it because there's a pandemic, we need to say how are we going to do it and then seek to do it.
I'll get you to sanitise your hands.
PLC is not wasting any time.
So I'll get you to grab the swab for me. So you just need to insert...
The school has been piloting rapid antigen testing since last term. Under the supervision of a nurse or paramedic, every student and staff member who comes on campus is swabbed and gets their results just 10 minutes later.
So grad yesterday was really good.
Yeah.
I miss all my friends though. I know.
For Year 12 student Piper, the return to school has been a long time coming.
What have you missed most this year, do you think?
Definitely my friends and my teachers. 100% seeing them on the screen is not the same at all.
You kind of think, if not now, then when?
Yeah, well, our time's running out. So with Piper in Year 12, it's now or never, really. And whilst I've got confidence in them coming back, we will get cases. That's undoubtedly we'll get cases. It's how we manage those cases and what can we do to reduce the risk of having to shut down entire schools, sending them all home, not being able to sit their exams and starting all over again.
Unfortunately, it's mainly only private schools that can afford rapid antigen testing, as well as other more expensive safeguards. That means there's a danger public school students could feel underprotected.
There's a real danger that there could be a two-tier system, and what I would encourage all private schools to do is just adhere to what your education departments are saying.
It's not often you get a doctor telling you, actually, you know what, don't take those precautions.
Well, I think we're at that stage, Tom, where some of the precautions we need to dial back because we are in a different phase of COVID-19. It's now a disease of the unvaccinated. We've got newer treatments. It's not the devastating disease of 2020.
But that division is nothing compared to the rifts that have emerged in America in recent months.
We know who you are. Keep it calm. Keep it calm.
Wearing masks at schools is taking away our freedoms.
We aren't the experts. We are educators.
In Florida, mums and dads and their kids have hit the streets to protest against a simple measure designed to keep kids and their teachers safe at school: masks. There have been some pretty wild scenes in Florida over this issue. Why are people so fired up about it?
I think that they have found something to be angry and frustrated about. They'll actually confront you and get in your face and ask you, why are you wearing this mask? How could you be so stupid? Why are you wearing a face diaper? And crazy things like that.
Yes, the same people who are introducing heartbeat.
While families against masks have been yelling and screaming, those on the other side of the debate, including Damaris Allen, have taken the argument to court.
And you should, listen.
Damaris leads a group of parents in Florida who've sued the state's governor over his ban on mask mandates.
Many of these kids are already immune through prior infection. They're at virtually zero risk of significant illness.
Even though a judge found in her favour, Damaris has still borne the brunt of the aggressive anti-mask crowd, with that court decision now being appealed.
They threatened basically to kill me, to destroy me, to get me fired. It's one of those things that you would have watched on TV and thought, how is this even real, right? I would have thought that was so bizarre, but that's what happened.
The topic of masks gets Dr. Nick Coatsworth fired up as well, but you might be surprised which side of the fence he's on. He's not a fan of them in schools.
This is one of the few things where I don't think I've been quite as mainstream. Isn't it 80 to 90%, Tom, of the communication of a human is through facial expression or something like that? If I give a tough diagnosis to a patient with a mask on, like a cancer diagnosis or severe infection or something like that, I need to take my mask off. Think about what that's like in the classroom for kids in their developmental stage. And I think you'd quickly arrive at the conclusion that it is more of a problem to wear masks than what we're trying to solve with transmission of COVID.
Another safety measure being explored in most states is improved ventilation in classrooms. starting with keeping the doors and windows open.
In Victoria, education bosses have gone one step further, buying 51,000 of these air purifiers for schools. This is the first batch of 2,000 units touching down from Samsung's factory in Korea. The devices have what are called HEPA filters, which claim to remove virus particles from the air, hopefully making classrooms cleaner. Beyond Victoria, other states in Australia are yet to formalise those kinds of purchases. In reality, every state is taking its own educated guess on what precautions are best, but no one's certain yet what will work and what won't. These air purification kits, CO2 monitors, some of those measures that are being introduced, do you think they are necessary?
We know that it's plausible that improved ventilation is going to reduce transmission. But how much do you want to invest in that when you already know transmission is low in schools? How much do you want to invest in that when you already know that disease is mild in children? They don't need to be hospitals, Tom. They don't need the same sort of standards.
The one thing almost everyone agrees on is that home learning needs to become a thing of the past. For PLC Sydney Principal Dr. Paul Burgess, it's time to start a new chapter, having learned some important lessons over the last 18 months. Do you think we might actually see some long-term ramifications from this extended period that students have been away from school?
I do. When we come back to school, we need to do ongoing checks to see where the gaps are and then seek to fill those gaps. But then another aspect is maybe it's a little bit like living through World War II. You know, it did make that generation more resilient, and I think there's going to be some real positives come out for these girls and boys as they come through from this time.
Hello, I'm Tom Steinfort. Thanks for watching 60 Minutes Australia. Subscribe to our channel now for brand new stories and exclusive clips every week. And don't miss out on our Extra Minutes segments and full episodes of 60 Minutes on 9now.com.au, as well as the 9Now app.